is that we all had a common goal really, which was to simplify interconnection, or peering at the time we were calling it. To simplify that for the end customer, aggregate onto one port. The two forces really that have driven this have been that increased demand for cloud. So businesses are now using approximately 24, 25 applications in day-to-day business. So they can use a platform like Console to manage multiple customer connections if that's been outsourced. We saw with the Moscow presentation there. Mm-hmm.
So it's better for big corporate to have peering instead of transit today, because the price is quite the same.
And they won't be getting wholesale pricing either, yes. Right?
So
The next presentation is run by Console, so I just called Ruth PLATER from Console to run this presentation, and Console is one of the resellers of France IX.
Hello. So I spoke a couple of years ago about remote peering, and I was told I spoke quite quickly, so I'll try my best not to today. I'm Northern English, so it's very difficult for me by nature. What I want to talk about today, though, is the next step from remote peering and what I talked about last time, which was a changing landscape a couple of years ago, to a sort of next generation of interconnection now. So I'm going to talk about what that is, what I mean by that, and why it's important. There's a couple of things that have been said in the last couple of presentations, which I think move towards that as well, so I'll pick up on that. So just a little bit about the company I work for at the moment. I used to work for IXReach. I still do, in a sense. We just have a new name. So we have the same product set. We're still a major reseller for major internet exchanges around the globe, like France IX, of course, and provide that remote peering service still. It's still a core product for us, and a very successful one. But we were bought about 1.5 to 2 years ago by an American company who were actually a competitor of ours at the time, called IIX. We're all now Console, or IXReach is now Console Network Solutions, a small sub-brand. But we're all one big family now. The interesting thing about that acquisition, actually, which I think is important to highlight as I move through this presentation, is that we all had a common goal, really, which was to simplify interconnection, or peering at the time we were calling it. To simplify that for the end customer, aggregate onto one port, bring it to a convenient location for the end customer or network, and really help expand networks into new markets, give them the option for flexible payments with fractional ports, that sort of thing. And really next generation interconnection that we talk about now, which refers more to the movement of enterprise into this industry as well, and more around cloud connectivity, has that same underlying business model, the same driving forces behind a need for a new model now. So why next generation interconnection? Why internet bypass, which is what we're really talking about here? It's bypassing the public internet. It's giving people the ability to directly connect to the applications, cloud platforms, other networks even as well, in the same way that peering does, so that they can connect in a more secure manner than they have done in the past. The two forces really that have driven this have been that increased demand for cloud. So businesses are now using approximately 24, 25 applications in day-to-day business. So Gmail, all the Google apps, Microsoft applications, AWS, Box, Dropbox, Zendesk. There's so many of them now. WhatsApp, I think I call people in the US on WhatsApp now, it saves me money. So there's a lot of that happening, which people don't even realize how many they're using when you really start to break it down. And then with that demand, obviously more security issues and more vulnerabilities have started to creep in. So we're getting much bigger DDoS attacks. Yahoo have just been in the news recently for the compromised data attack that they just had. So that's increasing every week, every month, which is forcing enterprises in particular to look at the alternatives to what they currently have in the way of connectivity towards all their business critical applications and cloud platforms. So as they're becoming more important to their day-to-day business, they're realizing that they can no longer use the public internet, or it's very difficult to continue using the public internet as a secure route to access these applications. So we did a recent study where we did a real deep dive into some of the major cloud providers. We spoke to them directly. We also spoke to a number of enterprises and companies that we work with very closely. And the key drivers, really, there was 5 main ones, driving them towards looking for an internet bypass, going from public internet to private internet. The top one was security, which is no surprise, really, reducing a large surface area of attack to a small one. Reliability as well. So there's a lot of moving parts if you're on just going over the public internet as opposed to your own private highway. The performance, so in the same way peering, we use peering to have a better performance than transit, for example. Shortest path is straight line. And visibility and control, really, over what their routing is, what's happening on their network. And then cost, again, it's the same with peering. You know, you can't really use it as an argument or a very strong argument anymore to why people peer versus transit. And it's the same in this. In most cases, it does actually save enterprises money. But really, the concern with cost is more about what happens if they don't do this. You know, what business is going to be impacted if they have a major attack? And therefore, what are they going to lose from that side of a cost-saving concept rather than directly? So I've got a very lovely animation here just to highlight what this means. It's a bit crude, and it is meant for enterprise, so sorry for that. But you can see here that you've got an enterprise sending traffic over the internet, and they're crossing, I think that it was 4.3 networks was the average, so between 4 and 5 networks, which is dozens of routers, dozens of links. It's intermingling with other people's traffic as well that's also being thrown into the mix, which can cause problems. Nicely illustrated with this. So there's an attack, and you can see it impacts the traffic. And then, obviously, going directly to those applications avoids all that. So just to prove that I'm not making it up, the trend towards cloud is increasing. I think we all know that. It's not really debated anymore, but there are analysts out there who prove that point, and they've got the research that backs it up. So here's some key data around that just to highlight that. So what's missing? In terms of enterprise, they don't really have a simple means to set up direct connections. AWS, Azure, and Google, they all have their own direct connect type of program. They might call it differently. But ultimately, if they want to connect to multiple clouds or multiple applications, part of the time the applications they want to connect to directly don't have a direct connect program, or they're forced to set up multiple connections, which is a lot of work. It's very costly. It's very time consuming. They might not know what they're doing very well. They're lacking the expertise that people in this room have. So really it needs a simplified offering. In the same way that we have started replacing physical servers with things like AWS, FTP with Box and Dropbox, and now ASN and BGP really with something a bit more user-friendly for the enterprise market. So a sort of 2.0, Interconnection 2.0. So what does that actually mean? Well, the legacy interconnection model is very manual, it's time-consuming, it's very wholesale carrier kind of environment. There's a rigid commercial model. You have to have 12, 24-month, 36-month contracts. It's not very elastic in terms of the bandwidth needs that you have. If you want to upgrade, it's flexible, but if you want to reduce that, it's more difficult. And really the next generation model is more social, it's automated, it's a lot easier, there's less components to deal with, and it's software defined as well. So I know it's very detailed, but if you look at the internet side, what is evident from that is that it's simple. The enterprise use it now because it's easy, but it's not actually the best. It's not actually the best thing for them. If you go through, you start to get more of the green ticks on some of the aspects that make something enterprise grade. So really, that's the key thing here is simplicity. So what ingredients are required to make a next generation model? Well, you need an ecosystem of partners. In the same way an internet exchange has a list of members, the more members that they have, the more variety of members they have for people to connect to, the more attractive it is to join. So it's the same with cloud connectivity and this interconnection model. You need to have a variety of services. AWS, Azure, and Google, great, but really what's mission critical to enterprise now are their logistics software or Zendesk or Salesforce maybe. All things that can be impacting on their delivery to the customer or their ability to provide really good customer service. It might be accounting software or something that's really key to their vertical. And the thing is here as well, you also need to spread that across multiple verticals unless you're being really niche with one. So what Consul's trying to achieve is a global platform that appeals to all sorts of different types of communities of interest and verticals. So we really need to start getting all of these services on board that platform. And we have quite a few already. It's one of the nice things of having IXP partners and the legacy business that was IX Reach and Allegro, and they'd already started that process, so that's really good. So you have the demand from the enterprise, and then the supply, which is the services and the infrastructure as a service and platforms. But we also need people to enable that connectivity. So you need to have data centers who have this within their data center. We still need network service providers to take that conveniently back and forwards to an enterprise office location, for example, and managed service providers as well. This is another string to their bow. They can use a platform like Console to manage multiple customer connections if that's been outsourced. We saw with the Moscow presentation there that people might outsource their IT and they might outsource all of this to a managed service provider. So they can, for them, operationally, it reduces a lot for them as well. You need a global network, so it's great having an ecosystem of partners, but if you haven't got a global network with deliver points and nodes around the world, then it's not really going to get very far. So at a granular level, this is what I was just talking about, how NSPs and data centers would connect a customer and then they can access all of their applications. So it's not a complicated topology. You also need software. And when I say software, I mean full automation. The enterprise is going to need an ASN, and it's going to need layer 2 and 3 automation. So Console is the first of its kind that we know of, unless someone pops up, that can do that. Full layer 3 automation. So an enterprise doesn't even need to have an ASN either when they sign up. If they haven't got one, they can have that auto assigned to them. So really removing all of the complication, all of the complexity, usually residing around setting up a direct connect. So that's really it. There's also a cloud interconnections white paper, which Bill Norton has been researching. A lot of the stuff comes from that. And we did a webinar on that recently. That's available. He does a really good comparison of Google, AWS, and Microsoft as well, looking at the different ways that you can connect to those cloud infrastructures, and also the costs involved and how they compare to the traditional model today, and also going directly with a private connect. So if you want one of those, just email me. It's on the bottom there, or catch me afterwards and I can give you a business card. And that's kind of what it looks like within the white paper, so that's just a snippet. And that's me. Any questions? I hope I didn't speak too quickly. This one over here. Hello at the back. Questions? Hello.
I must confess it's not entirely clear for me what console is supposed to do. But I think one thing caught my eye. It works only with AWS and Azure. You can only connect to this, or?
Apologies, I know I was meant to show a video, and I didn't want to be too salesy and start pitching console. It's basically, it's a social media interface where you can talk to network engineers, you can search for people on that social interface, and with a few clicks of a button, and that's where the automation of layer 2 and layer 3 happens, with a few clicks of a button you can connect to AWS or a SaaS application of your choice or another enterprise, and that's really what it does in a nutshell.
If I create a new a SaaS provider tomorrow, for instance, console users will not be able to use it immediately. If I suddenly create a new company providing SaaS services, people who today use console won't be able to use it for
not unless you join.
Yeah.
You'd have to join as a participant on the platform. It's neutral, it's non-discriminatory, so anyone can join. We're not confined to one data center, but if you have a SaaS application, then yes, you can join the platform and then they can access it directly. We'd have to work with you as a partner, obviously, but yeah. And by the way, a lot of the SaaS applications are coming to us for this. We spoke to one and they were getting 150 requests a month to directly connect to them, but they didn't have anything in place to help them do that, where it would simplify the conversation with the enterprise. And they were having huge headaches with cross-connect and how do they get the connectivity and where does it connect them to from their office, and they had multiple components, multiple suppliers in play. But yeah, we're building the ecosystem. We have a lot of big names on there at the moment, but they're what we call the magnets. They're the services, right, that attract the enterprise to join. Yeah. More question? There we go.
Actually, it's not a question, it's just a remark regarding the price. Because you had a question mark on the price.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from a big corporate in France, and I can tell you that the price of the peering is less than, even if the transit is dropping.
Yeah.
It's dropping for 10 gig, okay? Mm-hmm. Or 1 gig. And for corporate, do not have this kind of bandwidth of transit bandwidth. Mm-hmm. So it's better for big corporate to have peering instead of transit today, because the price is quite the same.
And they won't be getting wholesale pricing either, right?
So 10 gig today is okay. Yes,
it does in most cases. The cost is better in most cases, but it does depend on where. I mean, if you're connecting in Asia, it's more expensive than the US.
Yes.
Middle East.
Yes, that's right.
So it does depend on where. And who the company is, and how much bandwidth.
Even the price for a direct connect to Amazon, for example, is less than some transit pricing in Europe. So
I believe
that's
it.
very interesting.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just a remark.
Thank you. No, it's good. Anyone else? Oh, again.
Yes, because you said that several big names are in it, but what about France? Providers like OVH, Gandhi, Online?
Not yet. Hopefully. And actually, if you are interested in joining the partner program, we're onboarding data centers, networks, all of that is good. Come and speak to me. Obviously, our first market, we're a US-based company. Our first market for entry has been the US, and we've been onboarding partners there. We've actually got a queue of partners at the moment. We kind of can't keep up with it, so there's a bit of a queue. And then we're pushing into Europe, and that's kind of my area. So if you want to talk to me about that, that's fine. But yeah, we're not there yet. We will be, but not yet. Anyone else? The video is online, by the way, on Vimeo. So if you want to go and watch it, it beautifully articulates how the platform works, and it's a 2-minute video. All right, I think I've used my time now, Frank.
Thank you, Ruth.